Okay, here I am ready for round 17. I've knit my knits and purled my purls for 16 and just slipped that faux yarn over off that was creating my extra stitch, and I'm ready to go. So this is our first decrease round, and it starts with the yarn over, so I'm bringing my yarn forward, and then I'm going to knit 3. And there we go, pull your stitch marker back. There's your yarn over, knit 3, and SSK. Okay, and there's my SSK, knit 3, and then I'll show you SSP. So the directions say slip as if to knit, slip as if to purl, and with yarn in the front, purl 2 together. And so this is how we do it. We're on the purl stitches. They are lining up, so slip as if to knit, slip as if to purl. And if you want to, transfer them back over onto that left needle, because you're going to bring the yarn to the front before you purl them together. Okay, and then you purl those 2 together. And they just lay better when you do them this way, and kind of disappear. And there is your decrease right there. You're going to keep having a purl right here, but you're just going to have 1 purl. So your sequence is going to be 9 stitches now, and it's going to end with 1 purl. Okay, let's do that again. So yarn over, so we'll bring our yarn to the front. We'll knit 3. SSK, however you SSK the best. Knit 3. And there's my 3rd one, and so that lines you up with your purl stitches. Those are the ones you're decreasing to 1. So you slip as if to knit, so I'm going to slip it as if to knit in the front, and then I'll slip as if to purl, grab it from behind. Okay, and then it doesn't really work to stick that needle through to the left, because you need to bring that working yarn to the front. So go ahead and slip those stitches off to the left needle, bring your working yarn to the front, because you're going to grab those 2 and purl them together. Okay. And I guess because it starts with a yarn over, you can leave that working yarn in the front. And when you knit your first one, it creates that yarn over. Knit 1, 2, 3. SSK. SSP. Slip as if to knit, slip as if to purl. Go ahead and throw them on that left needle. Bring your yarn to the front and purl those 2 together. And leave your yarn in the front, because you're going to create a yarn over with that first knit stitch. P. All right, I'm gonna knit my knits and purl my purls so that Okay, so you're going to knit all the stitches, knit eight stitches. Your 9th stitch where you've SSP'd, you're going to purl. I'm always going to keep this going up through here where your purls are. Going to keep those purls because that's what really showcases that zigzag. Okay, my yarn. Not going in 10 stitch increments, you're doing 9 stitch. So, and there's that purl stitch, so that's the end of your sequence. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, always ending with that purl. Okay, and that's how you can keep yourself on track. So I have my 5 double pointed needles. I have a mixed matched pack. These are size 9s. This is it's like a 7-inch, 4 7-inch, and I must have lost the other one along the way, and this is a 10-inch. So it doesn't matter so much. We don't have a whole lot of stitches, but I'll show you how to get them on the double points. You're just going to slip them on there as if to purl, and just kind of break them up evenly. So we have about 45 stitches after that decrease round. So, you know, you'll put 10 and then some on each needle. So you're just slipping. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Put 12 on that one. Scoot them kind of towards the middle so you don't lose your stitches. And you're just going to keep adding them on. So I'm going to take a new one, slip as if to purl. Got 12 on that one. We'll scoot them towards the middle. Okay, here we go with the 3rd needle. Okay, so now we are on 4 double pointed needles. Grab that tail and pull it down. Okay, and anytime I go to set my work aside, I always scrunch them together on the needles like this. I'll put the needles like this. I'll wrap my yarn around the needles like this, and then I will poke my needles inside the ball of yarn, and that's how I leave my double pointed needles, because I've just never used point protectors. But you can get point protectors to slip on the ends of these to keep your work on there. Okay, so our working yarn is on the left, and so I'm just going to knit one like that, okay, and I'm going to leave it on this right needle because it keeps your place marker there. And then I'm going to grab my extra needle, my 5th needle, and this is where I'm going to start putting all my new work, okay. And so I'm going to transfer these stitches, knit them, or whatever the pattern is, onto this new needle. Okay, but I've already knit one and put it over here, and I'm just keeping that stitch marker on there. I don't want to lose that because it'll just slip off the end. Okay, so I already did my knit one. Okay, so now I'm going to do my yarn over. So here I am with my 3 needles, but I'm not going to... Why are we starting on a yarn over when we're switching our needles? Okay, and then you knit your 3. So I'm going to kind of move this one aside, and here we are. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and so there's my yarn over. 1, 2, 3. Yarn over, knit 3 SSK. It's really hard to do this underneath a phone. SSK, knit 2. And purl 1. Okay, I'm going to just continue with the pattern, which is knit 1 until I use up all the stitches from my left needle. Okay, yarn over, so I'm bringing the yarn to the front. I'm knitting 3, 1, 2. Okay, so that frees up this needle. I'm going to set that down. Get situated here, move my stitches to the middle. Okay, and now I'm going to move on. I'm going to put this one aside now, and I'm going to move on to this left needle and pick up my free needle that I just freed up. Okay, so in the sequence, if you lost it, you go back to your purl 1. Okay, so we did the purl 1, knit 1, yarn over, knit 2, but now I need to knit my 3rd knit. So I'm going to stick this in there and get it ready for my 3rd knit. Pick up my working yarn. Okay, kind of put that down and aside. You can hold it until you get going. So I'm going to knit that 3rd knit. So knit 3 SSK. All right. Knit 2. It's easier when you have a little bit more wiggle room. And purl 1. Okay, I'm just going to keep working around. Let's give myself a little more space. Needle with my yarn in the front. Okay, purl 1. Okay, and just cinch it down a little bit on that beginning needle. All right, almost done with this round. So with my yarn in the back. Start on this left needle again. So this one is kind of going to go behind, right? I'm going to go ahead and insert my needle, pick up my working yarn, and knit my knits. And for those of you who changed, like Cheryl, I know you changed down to a size, to a length of 20. on your needle. You might not need to go to the double points quite as soon, because you probably still have some stretch room with your pattern and your yarn. But you always go to your double points when your yarn is too stretched out on your round needles. So I'm going to go ahead and knit this one so I can, with my yarn in the back, so I can free up this needle. Okay. All right. So the pattern is looking really beautiful. I'm going to keep working on these double points until we do another decrease, and then I'll show you what's up. Okay, so I am on round 25. It's your final decrease round, I think. So I'm on my double pointed needles, but if you didn't need to go here as soon as I did because you had either a shorter needle length, I know Cheryl, you were on 20s, you might not need to go on the double point needles this soon, but when all your stitches get so stretched out that you can't possibly knit on your round needles anymore, that's when you move to double pointed needles. They allow you to keep getting smaller and decreasing and keep getting smaller. So this is a decrease round, round 25. Also, just to point out that this left needle right here doesn't start your round. Your round starts with this stitch right here. You moved this stitch over to the left of your marker. So the stitch to the left of your marker starts your round. We just slipped that stitch over there to keep this on and from sliding off. So decrease round, knit one. So I've already knit one to keep my marker on. Now I'm gonna knit two. So I'm gonna kind of put this down and aside. And I'm gonna start my knit two. So I'll take my free knitting needle and knit 1, 2. Okay, and if you haven't had to go on double pointed needles yet, this is the round where you probably will have to do that. I didn't want you to have to work on a project all on double points because it's frustrating when you're just beginning. So just to do the last little bit of your project on double points gives you some practice without, making you want to quit knitting altogether. Double pointed needles really allow you to do a lot of smaller rounds like leg warmers, which are so fun. So it's an important skill to learn. Okay, knit two together, knit one, knit two together. So we are definitely decreasing for the function of the decrease. Knit two, which is to make a smaller crown. And you end with your purl one still. You do that again. Knit one, knit two together, knit one. And if you're knitting, if you're doing something where you're like, oh, I can't knit two together because there's only one stitch on this needle, well, if you want to, just go ahead and transfer both stitches onto that left working needle, and then you can just knit two together and purl one with the yarn in the front. Okay, so you're at the end of round 25. I'm going to push my stitches to the middle so they don't come off while I'm working with these other needles. I'm just going to knit this round with that one little purl stitch on the end of the sequence. Knit two together, just give yourself some slack when you're bringing, you're bringing your yarn out of your SSKs and knit two together. Just make sure you pull on that and give yourself some slack because it tends to be tight right there. Okay, knit two. Okay, in order to do the yarn over going into a purl, you have to go around that. So your yarn is looking like this. With your yarn in front, you purl. Okay, that's what that looks like. Anders is trying to make me mess up outside the window, too. He's so cute. He's such a distraction. And purl one. We'll do our yarn over. Okay, and purl one. Okie doke. Almost there. SSK. Okay, so the reason why we take little breaks in between our pattern and do the knits and purl the purls is because it loosens up your stitches, so your pattern isn't compacted. It gives your pattern space, and it also, like towards the end, you could cinch it up here, but it's going to be super tight because your pattern of all your knit twos together and SSKs, make your pattern tight. So go ahead and knit your knits and purl your purls for knitting on double points. And I know sometimes when you first start knitting, where you have your 2 points that are coming together, you'll get this really loose area right here. When you're first starting to learn to knit with them. One way to remedy that is to take some of your stitches and just shift them around throughout your patterning. Like put the stitches, on the needle beside it, and then you won't have one line of loose stitches all the way up the seam. So now you've shifted your stitches, and so the line that was over here, you're kind of dispersing that around, and so it doesn't look like one long line of loose stitches. You always want to have the needle you're working with on the left kind of over top of the needles that are hanging down below. Like you just, tucking your needles down and under really helps. Come on, needle, tuck you down below. But like I said, when they're hanging kind of against your lap, it's a lot easier. I'll do little bouts of continental style knitting, so you'll just get used to seeing it, and one day you'll be like, I'm gonna learn that. Okay, so let's see, what is this last stitch want to do? Okay, we knitted the knits and purled the purls. So the pattern says you could end here. The reason I say that is because it just depends on your head size. The hat could fit you here. So, you obviously can try your hat on now. And you'll just grab all your needles. Put the stitches to the middle parts of your needles. I'm going to transfer this one last little stitch over, although I think the next thing is SSK, so I'm going to go ahead and SSK for that round if you're going to continue on to make a longer, bigger hat. Okay, I'm just, in order to not have so many needles, SSK. Okay, take that needle away. So I have 4 needles. I'm going to scrunch up all my stitches in the middle of those needles. Okay, so they look like this. I'm just going to try it on my head. Is that going to fit my head? Obviously it's a rib stitch, so it looks really skinny, but when you stretch all that out onto a head, it gets shorter, and of course mine's going to flip up right here. So I'm going to have that little rim. But cinch all your stitches up, try it on your head and say, do I want to end here. If you need it to be a little longer, because it does shorten up when it goes on a round head, then you keep going. I gave you a couple extra rounds so you could fit it to your head. If it's a little bigger like mine is and you want it to be longer. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do those last 2 rounds, and then I'll show you ladies how to transfer all your stitches onto a tapestry needle, cinch it up, weave in the loose ends. Okie doke. So I have done round 29 and 30, and there is a correction that I want to mention. Round 29 is SSK knit 3 purl 1. I toyed with taking out the yarn over in the row above. So I think the way that I wrote it here was if you had taken out the yarn over in 27. I didn't take out the yarn over, so make that an SSK knit 3 purl 1 on round 29. Okay, and then of course you always have this leftover stitch. So in order to consolidate stitches, I'm just going to slip it onto the left needle, get rid of that extra double pointed needles. Double pointed needle. I'm going to take my stitch marker off. Okay, I break the yarn or snip the yarn, and so I'm going to start with this left needle. I know I am, and I'm going to leave about an 8-inch tail to weave in. Snip. Okay, and get my yarn freed up. I'm going to thread this tapestry, aka darning needle, and slide the stitches as if to purl onto my darning needle. So just like this. Okay. Get rid of that needle. Pull it onto the yarn. Next. Okay, 1 needle left. Okay, and believe it or not, all those stitches, give this a pull. Not too strong of a pull, you don't want to break your thread or your yarn, but just give it a pull so that there's no longer a hole right there, and it forms this pretty little design within itself. And then I just weave, I keep going around a couple times the top, and the hole opens, but you'll cinch it down again as you weave in your tail. You just give it a tug and kind of get it maybe purposely tangled a little bit so that it stays. Okay, going around to give it another tight tug just to get rid of that hole. Go around a couple times, and then I'll tuck the tail on the inside. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so this last one, I'm just gonna stick the needle down and into the inside, pull it through. Okay, and then I'll find a place to weave in the tail. I always kind of weave in on the diagonal, like I'll weave up this way just so that it kind of gets caught. In the pattern a little bit. Sorry, can you see that? Okay. And then I'll slip that through, cut it on the diagonal so there's not a blunt yarn sticking out. Okay, and then the only thing I have left to do is weave in my starting tail. Might as well go ahead and do that. So easy to do. And then you can try it on without strings. Okay, where am I? So I always like to pull this a little tighter than I normally would pull anything tight, and then just loop it through that last stitch 2 times just to kind of lock it in there. Okay, so I've locked it in. Now I'm just gonna mindlessly weave it. I'll turn you around. And because I am flipping up my brim like this, you know, I do want to be cognizant of where I'm weaving it in, because I will probably go on the outside, on the right side, and weave mine in because my brim is going to be flipped up. So I'll bring it around to the right side and weave it in. We go over here, go back this way. A lot of people just like to get their yarn tangled, so and like this, where they split the thread and go up. I don't do that a whole lot, but you can, because the yarn really does kind of stay put once you've woven it in. And don't pull too tight, just keep it loose, you know, like your pattern or like your stitches. Just keep them loose. Go back this way, and that's going to do it for me. Doesn't take a lot of weaving in. Once you've locked that first stitch, cut it on the diagonal, and oh my gosh, this is so pretty. I made a cap last year and I just wore the heck out of it, and so it was time to make a new cap. There we go. There's our lace pattern, and let's see if we can see the whole lace pattern together. Lacey zigzag. Okay, there it is. It's so pretty. All those yarn overs and SSKs and knit 2 together is just creating this beautiful, chunky, lacy, faux cable-ish pattern. It's just so pretty, and that's it. There it is. And for those who didn't do the turn up brim, there it is. What a lovely, lovely hat. And this, I guess this took me a couple hours with the filming and everything. But yeah, these would be great Christmas presents. Okay, thanks so much, ladies, for hanging in there with me. And I will get this edited and posted as soon as I can.